The explorer considered the harrow with a frown. The explanation of the judicial procedure had not satisfied him. He had to remind himself that this was in any case a penal colony, where extraordinary measures were needed, and that military discipline must be enforced to the last. He also felt that some hope might be set on the new commandant, who was apparently of a mind to bring in, although gradually, a new kind of procedure, which the officer's narrow mind was incapable of understanding. This train of thought prompted his next question. Will the commandant attend the execution? It is not certain, said the officer, wincing at the direct question. His expression darkened. That is just why we have to lose no time. Much as I dislike it, I shall have to cut my explanations short. But of course tomorrow, when the apparatus has been cleaned, it is one drawback, it is easy to get so messy. I can recapitulate all the details. For the present, then, only the essentials. When the man lies down on the bed, it begins to vibrate, and the harrow is lowered onto his body. It regulates itself automatically, so that the needles barely touch his skin. Once contact is made, the steel ribbon stiffens immediately into a rigid band, and then the performance begins. An ignorant onlooker would see no difference between one punishment and another. The harrow appears to do its work with uniform regularity. As it quivers, its points pierce the skin of the body, which is itself quivering from the vibration of the bed, so that the actual progress of the sentence can be watched. The harrow is made of glass. Getting the needles fixed in the glass was a technical problem, but after many experiments, we overcame the difficulty. No trouble was too great for us to take, you see, and now anyone can look through the glass and watch the inspection taking form on the body. Wouldn't you care to come a little nearer and have a look at the needles? The explorer got up slowly, walked across, and bent over the harrow. You see, said the officer, there are two kinds of needles arranged in multiple patterns. Each long needle has a short one beside it. The long needle does the writing, and the short needle sprays a jet of water to wash away the blood and keep the inscriptions clear. Blood and water together are then conducted here through small runnels into this main runnel and down a waste pipe into the pit. With his finger, the officer traced the exact course taken by the blood and water. To make the picture as vivid as possible, he held both hands below the outlet of the waste pipe as if to catch the outflow, and when he did this, the explorer drew back his head and, feeling behind him, with one hand, sought to return to his chair. To his horror, he found that the condemned man too had obeyed the officer's invitation to examine the harrow at close quarters and had followed him. He had pulled forward the sleepy soldier with the chain and was bending over the glass. One could see that his uncertain eyes were trying to perceive what the two gentlemen had been looking at. But since he had not understood the explanation, he could not make head or tail of it. He was peering this way and that way. He kept running his eyes along the glass. The explorer wanted to drive him away, since what he was doing was probably culpable, but the officer firmly restrained the explorer with one hand, and with the other took a clod of earth from the rampart and threw it at the soldier. He opened his eyes with a jerk, saw what the condemned man had dared to do, let his rifle fall, dug his heels into the ground, dragged his prisoner back so that he stumbled and fell immediately, and then stood looking down at him, watching him, struggling and rattling in his chains. Set him on his feet, yelled the officer, for he noticed that the explorer's attention was being too much distracted by the prisoner. In fact, he was even leaning right across the harrow, without taking any notice of it, intent only on finding out what was happening to the prisoner. Be careful with him, cried the officer again. He ran around the apparatus, himself caught the condemned man under the shoulders, and with the soldiers helped him get up on his feet, which kept slithering from under him. Now I know all about it, said the explorer. as the officer came back to him. All except the most important thing, he answered, seizing the explorer's arm and pointing upward. In the designer are all the cogwheels that control the movements of the harrow, and this machinery is regulated according to the inscription demanded by the sentence. I am still using guiding plans drawn by the former commandant. Here they are. He extracted some sheets from the leather wallet. But I'm sorry, I can't let you handle them. They are my most precious possessions. Just take a seat and I'll hold them in front of you like this. Then you'll be able to see everything quite well. He spread out the first sheet of paper. The explorer would have liked to say something appreciative, but all he could see was a labyrinth of lines crossing and recrossing each other, which covered the paper so thickly that it was difficult to discern the blank spaces between them. Read it, said the officer. I can't, said the explorer. Yet it's clear enough, said the officer. It's very ingenious, said the explorer evasively, but I can't make it out. Yes, said the officer with a laugh, putting the paper away again. It's no calligraphy for school children. It needs to be studied closely. I'm quite sure that in the end you'd understand it too. Of course the script can't be a simple one. It's not supposed to kill a man straight off, but only after an interval of, on average, 12 hours. The turning point is reckoned to come at the 6th hour. So, there have to be lots and lots of flourishes around the actual script. The script itself runs around the body in a narrow girdle. The rest of the body is reserved for the embellishments. Can you appreciate now the work accomplished by the harrow and the whole apparatus? Just watch it. He ran up the ladder, turned a wheel, and called down, "Look out, keep to one side," and everything started working. If the wheel had not creaked, it would have been marvelous. The officer, as if surprised by the noise of the wheel, shook his fist at it, then spread his arms out in excuse to the explorer and climbed. He spread out his arms in excuse to the explorer and climbed down rapidly to peer at the working of the machine from below. Something, perceptible to no one save himself, was still not in order. He clambered up again. Did something with both hands, clambered up again, did something with both hands in the interior of the designer, then slid one of the rods, instead of using the ladder so as to get down quicker, and with the full force of his lungs to make himself heard at all the noise, yelled in the explorer's ear, "Could you follow it? The harrow is beginning to write. When it finishes its first draft of the inscription on the man's back, the layer of cotton wool begins to roll, and slowly turns over the body, to give the harrow fresh space for writing. Meanwhile, the raw part that has been written on lies the cotton wool, which is specially prepared to staunch the bleeding, and so makes all ready for a new deepening of the script. Then these teeth at the edge of the harrow, as the body turns further round, tear the cotton wool away from the wounds, throw it into the pit, and there is more work for the harrow. So, it keeps on writing deeper and deeper for the whole 12 hours. The first 6 hours, the condemned man stays alive, almost as before. He suffers only pain. After 2 hours, the felt gag is taken away, for he no longer has the strength to scream. Here, into this electrically heated basin, at the head of the bed, some warm rice pap is poured, for which the man, if he feels like it, can take as much as his tongue can lap. No one of them ever misses the chance. I can remember none, and my experience is extensive. Only about the 6th hour does the man lose all desire to eat. I usually kneel down here at that moment and observe what happens. The man rarely swallows his last mouthful. He only rolls it round in his mouth and spits it out into the pit. I have to duck just then, or he would spit in my face. But how quiet he grows, at just about the 6th hour. Enlightenment comes to the most dull-witted. It begins around the eyes. From there it radiates. A moment that might tempt one to get under the harrow oneself. Nothing more happens than the man begins to understand the inscription. He purses his mouth as if he were listening. You have seen now how difficult it is to decipher the script with one's eyes, but our man deciphers it with his wounds. To be sure, that is a hard task. He needs 6 hours to accomplish it. By that time, the harrow has pierced him quite enough, and casts him into the pit, where he pitches down upon the blood and water and the cotton wool. Then the judgment has been fulfilled, and we, the soldier and I, bury him. Thanks for listening, readers. Come back next time, and we'll continue this beautiful story called In the Penal Colony.